Hello everyone, we are here to understand the basics of Spring Security in one video, and at the end of this video you'll get to know much details of the Spring Security, how to handle the users and their passwords and everything. So here we are in the Spring Initializer to create our Spring Boot project. So I'm going for 3.1.4 as a Spring Boot version, and let's name the artifact ID as Spring Security. So we are going for Spring Security, so we are naming as security demo, and here we will add certain dependencies. So we are going to create a web project, so we'll go for Spring Web, then we'll go for the development tools, so Spring Boot Dev Tools, and then we are going to have some security features in our Spring Boot project, and another thing is that Lombok. So these four dependencies I will add to let you understand the Spring Boot with Spring Security. And let's provide a Spring-demo as a name, and finally generate the project. Now I'm going to import that project which I've just generated right now, and I'll browse through that project and I'll click on finish. So this is a project which has been created through Spring Initializer, and let me open the POM file. In this POM file, since I'm using Java 11 version, so I'm going for Java 11. And one more thing, to start the web application, initially I'm going to comment out this Spring Security feature just to demonstrate that web applications are working fine. Then we will enable this Spring Security and we will show that what are the changes which has happened and how this login and authorization works. So this is a project which has been created. Now I'm going to create a class as a controller class. So I'll name it as home controller, because I'm going to use this controller for this entire video to let you understand the Spring Security in detail. So I'm name it as REST controller because I'm going to create APIs here, and let me provide the main URL through request mapping, and I will name the URL as home, which will be the initializer of the URL text, and I will create a get mapping with user as the URL, and it will return the user, and the method will be get user. Simply I will be returning user, or I would say string as of now. Let me return the string as, for now I am going to return the name Sumit only, and then I will close it and I will provide this detail in the return part. So in this way I have created a REST controller and basic get mapping, and I am going to run this application to demonstrate that things are working fine in the project. And let's move this controller to controller package. So move to Spring Security demo dot controller. So now the controller is in the controller package. One more thing, I am going to create a user, and in this user I am going to create the name, and for that I'll write private string name and the age, for that private integer age, and I'll create this as a data. So data contains all the getters and setters, so you don't need to worry about that. And now I'm going to provide this user inside this as a list. So instead of a string, it is better to return a certain list of users. So I will be returning the list of users, and here instead of directly returning from the controller, I will create a service layer, and from that service layer I will be returning the list of users. So I'm going to auto-wire a new class which I will create right now as user service. So this user service will give me the name of the user service, and this user service I am going to create. For that creation, let's create the class first, or I would say service layer first. So I'm going to use a layer, or I would say package as service. Inside this service package I will create this class user service, and this will be annotated with @service as stereotype. So in this service layer I will return the list of users through a method. For that method I am going to use this user service bean dot get all users method. and this will be provided in the user service. So I'll write this user service layer and return list of users from here. So I'll create a list of users and this will be named as users only, and this will be arrays dot as list, and the users list will be created here only. So I'm going to create at least 2 users, name it as user. So let me annotate this user class with all args constructor also, so that all argument can be passed in the constructor at the place where I'm writing new user. So now you can see all args constructor is there. So I'll simply provide first as a name. So let me name it as Sumit, and the age let me pass as 21. Then another user, let it be 3 times or 3 user I would say. Second one will have 22 as the age, then 19 as the age. Let the name be Danish, let the name be Ajay. So these are the 3 users which will be returned. So I'll have to, instead of creating a list and returning that list, I'll directly return this arrays.as list in a one line. So this is a one liner return for get all users. You can assume that this is coming from database, but as of now I'm just returning it from the service layer. So when I'll run this Spring Boot application right now, so run as Spring Boot application, it says there's issue with the Java version for this Spring Boot version which I'm using. So let me put it to some previous versions like 2.7 or something which I've been using. So now let me start again this Spring project. So run as Spring Boot application. Again I will go as run as Spring Boot app. Before that, let me build this project to get to know that things are working fine. So as you can see, the things are okay, and it has successfully built the project. Now I'm going to run this project and show you that APIs are working fine. And one more thing, let's create a different port for this project. So I'll provide in the application.properties as server.port as 8081 instead of 8080. So now I have started my application and it has started at port number 8081 as you can see it here. So now I'll go to the Chrome because it's a get mapping. We can directly open the browser and get the details. So I'm going to create a new window. In that I'll write localhost 8081 at which our project has started. So it will be 8081, then home, then users. So as you can see, the details are coming for all the users which we have created right now. Name Sumit 21, Ajay 22 and Danish 19. Now comes the next part, that what will happen if we will provide the Spring security. So as soon as I am going to provide the dependency of Spring security, all the URLs will be blocked and will ask me for the login credentials. So as you can see, right now I am adding the dependency of Spring security, and I am going to start the application. Though I am using DevTools, but just to demonstrate, I am restarting the application. So as you can see, this password has been generated in the console itself. Let me copy it to the notepad, and now I am going to the browser. Again I will hit the same URL which I have just hit, but this time it will ask me to log in. This is the basics of Spring security which I just started right now. So Spring security will not allow, if you have added the dependency of Spring security in your project, to go to any of its URL. So by default it will be user as a username. For password you will have to go to the console and see what is the password coming. So this password I have copied and so I click on sign in. So as you can see, the list is coming now. So user is the default name and password will come on the console if you have not done any configuration besides just adding Spring security. So as you can see, we are able to access the URL. Now if we want to log out, you can directly go to the port number, then log out. It will ask you to log out, click on log out. Now you have logged out. Again, if you will search the same URL, you will not be able to log in until unless you will again provide the same details. So since I've logged out, I'm going to enter the details again, user and the password which I've just copied from the console, and I can log in now. So first and foremost thing we have done, and we are able to log in and access the details of our URL which we have provided in the project. So as you can see, things are working okay. Now let me provide a custom username and password through application.properties. So you need to go to the application.properties, simply write spring.security.user.name, and you'll need to provide the username, your custom username. So instead of user, I will write Sumit here, and the password I'll be writing here spring.security.user.password. But these are very much exposed to outer world, so it is not advised to write your project in such a way. So just to understand, I'm going through these parts. So Sumit and Plejava I have written. I'm starting this application, and when I will go, as you can see in the console, the password is not there because I have explicitly added the password as Plejava. So now I am going to again hit the same URL home.user, and again it will ask me to log in. So here I am going to log in with the password and username which I provided in the application.properties, Sumit and Plejava. So this time it has picked the data from the application.properties. So as you can see, in this way we can provide the custom username and custom password. Now these are not advisable, so we need to have certain authentication authorization techniques in our project. For that I am going to create a configuration file here. So for that I am going to create a class. I will name it as config, and this config will be used for the configuration of the beans, and these beans will be providing the user authentication. So for this config, since it's a configuration class, I will annotate with configuration. I'll provide few beans. So first bean I'll provide will be returned from here, and it will be user service and user details. So as you can see, user detail service. So this user detail service, as you can see in the import, it is coming from the security only, and it will be returned through the builder pattern which we will create right now. So we will return this new user detail service through that, and we will provide the two users in the memory, and I'll be using in-memory user details manager to add these users in the memory itself, and whenever I will do the login, it will be added here. So here I'll provide new user. So for that I'll write user.builder pattern, and as you can see, this user is not from the user which we have created. It is coming from the Spring Security. So first thing is to user.builder.username, and I'll provide one user as Sumit, and I'm going to comment it out these two lines so that you'll get to know that these are not coming from here. So I've commented out, and again I'm going to the config file. I'll provide the name as Sumit here as my name, and I'm going to provide the password. So password is not advised to directly be used. Basically we need to provide an encryption technique so that it will be easier for the user to, and it will be secure for the user to go through that particular application. So I am going to provide a bigcrypt password encoder. For that I am writing method here as a password encoder. So I'll return the encoder, password encoder. So password encoder is interface, and bigcrypt password encoder is its application, you can say, or implementation. So I'll return bcrypt password encoder, and it will be returned from here and will be used inside this at this place. So dot encode, and this will encode this data, and it will go and test it whether it is correct or not, and after that it will be built. So one user is built now. Let me create one more user. So I'm going to copy the same line and create another user with different username and different password. So let the other user be Ajay and let the password be provided here as Ajay123. So these are the two users which I have created with password as test123 and Ajay123. So these are in-memory user details which whenever a user does a login, this will be added in the memory until unless it does a logout. And these are the two beans used in the configuration file. So now when I'm going to provide it here as a role also. So for Sumit, I'm going to provide the role as admin and user. You can provide multiple roles to a particular user. And for the Ajay, I'm going to provide role as admin only, or you can say user too. So first is Sumit with admin and user both, and Ajay as user as the role. Now I have started the application again. We will play with the roles in coming part. So right now we are looking into these users details. So these are users which are returning from here. So I am going to the browser again, and as you can see I have removed the hardcode written username and password from the application.properties. So again I am going to the same URL localhost 8081 with home and users as the URL. So here as a home and user. Now when I'll hit enter, it will ask to login. So I'll use the same details which I have provided. As you can see, if I'm providing any random details, admin or something, it will just provide a bad credential. So let me show you that if I'm providing Sumit and Play Java also, it will say bad credential. Play Java, and again it said bad credential. Now if I am going to this config file, as you can see Sumit has a password of test123. So let me provide it here, Sumit, and password as test123. So it has allowed us to log in. Now let me do again a logout here, so that I will do a login through Ajay user. So after doing logout, if I am going to go to the same URL home and user, so I am going to type it here and it will again ask me to login. So localhost 8081 and home user. So after this I am going to provide the username and detail of Ajay. So Ajay has, as you can see from here, Ajay has the username as Ajay and password as Ajay123. So I am going to write Ajay123 and sign in. So both users are now able to log in. But roles doesn't play here. I am going to demonstrate right now in coming times only that how this roles are being played. One more thing, I am going to encrypt this password here. Any online search you can do and you can use these details. So first thing, let's provide Ajay as Ajay123 and I am going to decrypt it and copy this password. And now I don't require any encoder. I can directly paste this password here and paste it. So this will be the password of Ajay as Ajay123 and again Sumit123. Let me provide S as small, copy it and paste it in the encoded part. So this will be removed. Instead of test123, this password will be there and one extra braces will be removed. So these two details are removed. Just to summarize or just to keep things in the memory, Sumit has a password of Sumit123 and Ajay has a password Ajay123, which A as a caps. So again I am going to do login. I have already started the application. So this encrypted password I'm not going to provide. I am going to provide the exact password as Sumit123 and Ajay123, and as you can see things are working properly, and this code snippet or password they are checking with the encoded password only, not as a direct password. So this is working as expected. So let me stop the application. Now let's play with the roles. roles is quite interesting to look into, that how different roles can be mapped to that particular user. So before that, let's try one more time for this home part. So I'm going to log in with Ajay and Ajay123 and do a sign in. So Ajay will be caps 123. Now it has done the login. Yeah. So home users, it is working as expected. So this is what we have done till now, that we have encrypted the password, we have provided the user, we have provided the role, but we have not played with the roles. Now next part is to play with the roles. So just to summarize, the password of Sumit is Sumit123 and for Ajay it's Ajay123 with a caps. And let me create one more class, or I would say one more config class, in which I will be providing the details on the basis of user roles. For that, let's name this class as security config, and this will extend the class of web security configuration adapter, and click on finish. We need to annotate with @enable web security. As you can see, enable web security is here. And now let me provide the overridden method, and it will be protected and protected void. Then I'll write the configure, and in this I'll provide HTTP security as HTTP security, and inside this I am going to provide the details on the basis of user role. So to handle CSRF attack, http.csrf dot disabled dot authentication authorize HTTP request. So it will authorize all the requests which are coming to that particular detail. So it will authorize request dot and matches. Now and matches is those URLs which you need to authorize on the basis of the details which are going to give. So let me create two more methods. One will be mapped to the user role and one will be mapped to the admin role. That means user details is a URL through which a user can see the details, and another one I am going to create as admin-details, in which only admin can see that. So here I am going to return that in user details as the return string to understand that we are returning through user detail. And next method or next URL, I am going to use the admin-details, which will be accessible to admin roles only. So user details accessible to user roles, admin details accessible to admin roles. And how to do that, we will do in the Spring config.java class which we have just created. So this will return in admin details, and this will again return a string only. So these two will be on the basis of different roles of the user. User details for user, and this I am going to provide here. Home is the base URL, then the second thing comes is user details. So I am going to provide the user details. That http.csrf to be disabled, then authorize request with and matches means any match coming as home user details or anything which has a role of user only, then and again, then fill form login. So it says if any user has role of user, then allow it for user details. Now second thing I'm going to add is for admin. If anyone has admin role, then allow for admin details. Add throws for exception. One more thing, I need to auto wire this inside Spring Security. So I'll save this part as of now. Now you can see we have created two roles, user and admin, and mapped to the URL of user and admin only. That means user can access user detail, admin can access admin detail. Now Sumit is a user with role of 2 roles. Let's remove one role and let's create one role only. So here I am going to remove one role from the Sumit. So Sumit will be admin. Sumit will password, let me provide it here just above the password, and let's provide the Ajay123 again above the Ajay's password. So these we have done the formatting. Now comes the role. I am going to remove this user part because Sumit will be mapped to admin only and he can access admin details URL. Ajay is a user which can access user details URL. Now let me start the application. So run as Spring Boot application. So our Spring security demo project has started. So I am going to the URL right now and I am going to access the user details and admin details URL separately through different roles, and let's play on different roles how the things are working. For this user details, this is accessible to user only. So if any user, if I am providing whose role is not user, then it will not be accessible. So let's provide the admin to this particular user detail so that we can see that it is not accessible. And who is admin? Sumit is admin here. So Sumit cannot access user details because Sumit is mapped to admin role. So now I am going to log in with this Sumit and Sumit123 as a password, and you can see it is not accessible. So if I have done sign in, so you can see the URL is user details and it clearly says that it is forbidden. But if I am going to access the Sumit as a not a user detail but admin detail, then he can access it. So here I am going to go home and write on user details. Again it will ask me to do a login, and if I'm going to do a login for this user of Sumit, then it will not be accessible to user details. So here I'm going to go with Ajay. Ajay will be a user and he can access user details. So I'm going to provide Ajay and Ajay123 and sign in. You can see he can access user details and it clearly returns in user details from here. Now if I am going to go for admin details, I'll provide it here. He cannot access admin details because he is not admin. Again it says forbidden because Ajay is a user and he cannot access admin. Now I'm going to do a logout. Again do a login through that particular home page and admin details. And let me provide the details of admin here so that he can access the admin details. But going straight away, let's provide first user details or the details of the user. So admin is Sumit but user is Ajay and I am going to access admin. So to see that it is not coming for Ajay, I will first do a login through Ajay with role as user. So Ajay will do a login and try to access admin role. So he will not be able to access and see forbidden will come. But if he goes for the user, he will land for the user details. Let's now go for the directly for the Sumit and to that particular page of home admin details, and the username is Sumit and password is Sumit123. So Sumit will do a login for his admin page and he can access the admin page which is mapped to his particular role. So as you can do, sign in admin details. In this way we can do encryption of passwords, store into the DB. We can play with the roles, provide the API gateway kind of thing. Different URL segments, different roles can be mapped and users can be provided details. So these are the basic, I would say, concepts of Spring Security which one should know, or I would say which every Spring Boot developer should know to handle the security concerns in the project. So thank you all for watching the video. Hello everyone. We are here to understand the basics of